Rafael Devers' new 10-year contract extension has been made official. 5 players avoided arbitration with the Red Sox, and Chaim Bloom has a message for Red Sox fans.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Red Sox is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I am your host, NESN's Lauren Willand. Jake is in Florida this week, enjoying some warm weather and some sunshine, so I am flying solo today, but he will be back later this week. We have a lot to discuss and a lot of exciting episodes on the docket for you. But for today, we're going to talk about Devers' 10-year contract being official, kind of how it came to be, Chaim Bloom's interesting message, we'll call it, for Red Sox fans. We'll discuss who avoided arbitration with the Red Sox in our second segment of Locked On Red Sox. But the big story of last week, of course, was Rafael Devers and his contract being made official. So his 10-year deal is on the books. He's under contract with the Red Sox for the next 11 seasons, which really the best part for the Red Sox has been the Rafael Devers news this offseason. It's been kind of an up and down offseason. Obviously, the loss of Bogaerts is really, really crummy. You did get a closer in Kenley Jansen. You did bolster the entire bullpen. So yes, there's still good, but there's so much bad and still kind of unknown that's overshadowing the good moves that have been made this offseason. So it was nice to have a lot of positivity. And Devers always brings the positivity. He's always smiling. He's always laughing. So it was good to see his contract finally be made official. This wasn't some Carlos Correa situation, obviously. And now he's going back to the Twins. So who knows what can happen in the offseason. But what we do know is that Rafael Devers will be here until he's 36 years old, which should sit well with Red Sox fans. And during his press conference, Tom Werner showed face. This is kind of a shock. This is the first time it feels like in a very, very long time that someone from the ownership group has faced the media, has been on hand for a press conference, and someone other than Sam Kennedy. You know, this wasn't just Sam Kennedy and Brian O'Halloran. This was Tom Werner was there, Chaim Bloom, Rafael Devers, obviously, his agent was there. And it was just, I felt that the press conference was very reassuring. The fact that he did want to be here. Rafael Devers said he did not want to hit free agency and that he did want to get a deal done with the Red Sox. And we hear that a lot, right? With impending free agents, we heard that with Bogaerts, who I do believe did want to be here. But Rafael Devers said, he didn't want to hit the free agent market. He wanted to stay with the only team he's known, the team that he said adopted him since he was 16 years old. So he's been with the organization already for 10 years, which is crazy to think about. And he'll be here for another 11 more and 10 next year when his contract finally kicks in. But anyway, John Henry, to the surprise of no one, was not on hand for the press conference. But what he did do in December was fly down to the Dominican Republic to talk to Devers. And the Athletic's Jen McCaffrey and Chad Jennings, both friends of the show, really did a great article in the Athletic, kind of breaking down the whole trip and how it came to be from December 14th, from their first trip to Zoom calls to finally getting a deal done for the long term. So it started December 14th. Devers' agent was there. Alex Cora was there. They offered him a $300 million deal that Devers ultimately turned down. And within 3 weeks, the Athletic said that the Red Sox had the framework of the 10-year, $313.5 million extension. That was the one that became official. And it's also the 10th largest contract in baseball history. I believe it's the largest in Red Sox franchise history. So a lot of history there, a lot of numbers there. And I remember when Chaim Bloom said that they wanted to stay within reason, but they would go kind of beyond their comfort zone with Devers. And it was kind of like, you can't really have it both. So the fact that they offered him a $300 million deal, he turned it down, and they went right back to the drawing board, I think speaks to how much they really did want Rafael Devers in Boston, and also speaks to Devers knowing his worth and didn't take that $300 million deal, but was still confident that they would get a deal done. And they did. Thank goodness they got it done, because if this was not done going into the 2023 season, it would just be a constant storyline, and it would just serve as a distraction, even though not wanting to discuss a contract in the season to kind of avoid the distraction. still creates a distraction outside. The fans are talking about it. The media is talking about it. So now here we are. The Red Sox have their third baseman and maybe even their DH on the team for the next 11 years. Devers did not want to become a free agent, like I mentioned. He said that this is an organization that has given me everything. So that was a factor, but also free agency isn't easy. It's a tough process. I just didn't want to go through that. And that's fair too. I mean, he certainly earned his right to test the free agent market if he wanted to. But if you did want to avoid that and kind of avoid all the teams talking to you, looking at all these deals, I'm sure that it's more than just, hey, this is what we want to give you. What do you think? I'm sure that it's a drafted contract. I don't think it's as a simple process at all to be a free agent. And it's probably a little overwhelming too. But Devers was like, I don't want to do that. I want to stay here. Let's make it work. And lo and behold, the Red Sox did indeed make it work. So you're looking at this contract and you're thinking about, Xander Bogaerts, who they didn't sign to a contract. You're looking at Trevor Story, who they signed to a 6-year contract. And you're wondering, why would they give that kind of deal to Story? Why wouldn't they commit to Bogaerts? Like, what made Devers so deserving of this huge contract? And Tom Werner said, if you look at statistics, and statistics are only part of it, this is a man who I think has had more extra base hits than anybody in baseball since 2019. Just as a fan, when he came up to bat, the way he addresses the situation, his ability to hit extra base hits and win games, obviously it starts with that, but it doesn't end there. This is a man who's hungry to win. We know his character. We rely on the fact that he is not just a great ball player, but a great role model. That all goes into our desire and pleasure that he's a Red Sox player, and I think that he's a fan favorite. That's important to us, but he's going to win many, many games for us and hopefully many championships. Now, a championship probably isn't coming in 2023, but some of the things Werner said, it kind of makes you think, well, didn't Bogaerts provide that? He obviously was a role model. He was a leader. He was a fan favorite. So I don't know if that exactly really sat well with fans, but it was good to hear that you are acknowledging that you do have a fan favorite on your roster. You have somebody who puts butts in seats. You have somebody who kids really like to watch. You have somebody who adults like to watch. People love watching Rafael Devers play. Yes, it can be kind of maddening when he does these crazy hard swings and he's missing, or he misses just a normal ground ball at third base, but he makes these crazy diving plays. But I do believe that he is somebody who wants to win. I just don't know if the team they have around him in 2023 is the team that's going to win. But it's a good start. And I think you have to, in order to have a strong house, you need a foundation, a strong foundation, right? And that starts with Rafael Devers now. This is Rafael Devers' team. And if they want to continue to be successful, and if they want to kind of get out of this slump that we'll call it, then yeah, they need to build around Devers. And the first part of that was committing to him, and they did that. But what I believe is the most interesting thing to come from this press conference, it was nothing Devers said, it was nothing Tom Werner said or Sam Kennedy. It was something that Chaim Bloom said. And after the kind of introductions were made, Chaim Bloom said, oh, just, one more thing. And he addressed the fans. And this is the first time he's truly kind of addressed the fans, we'll say face to face. Obviously, not every single Red Sox fan was in that press conference, but a lot of them were watching. A lot of them do tune in on Twitter, and a lot of them read the articles after the presser has been completed. So he was speaking directly to the fans, and he said, I actually want to say really to our fans, loving your favorite team has great moments. It's not always easy. And I know we've had some ups and downs, certainly in the last few years. And I know y'all are smart, and there would be ups and downs with where we stood and some of the things that we were going to have to go through. I mean, I'd say there's been a lot of ups and downs, but he continued on to say, you've been with us the whole way. When we celebrated, you've celebrated with us. When we've hurt, you've hurt, and we know that, and we feel it. So I'm hoping today, when you think about what we always talked about and where we're going in this vision of a Red Sox organization that every year is consistently contending for championships, I'm hoping that vision is a little clearer for you today, knowing that this guy is going to be right at the middle of it, what we're going to do around him. So I genuinely believe that he was speaking from his heart, and it almost feels like too little too late. You've already made moves that have hurt this team. The moves that you've made have hurt the team, but the moves you've made kind of corresponding to that hasn't made the team any better. And there hasn't been any urgency to make this team better. Look at last year's trade deadline. Look at this offseason, the offseason before that. And it's just, look at the inability to bolster the bullpen before this offseason. So I don't necessarily think the vision is clearer just because you have your third baseman for the next 10 plus years. Yes, it's a start, but I don't think that the vision of winning championships, like just because you signed one player doesn't mean you're definitely going to be contending next year. Again, it's a good start. And it's what fans wanted. They wanted Rafael Devers here. Ideally, they would have loved Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts here, but that's obviously not going to happen. But beyond Devers, there's still a lot of question marks. There's still a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of what ifs, not just with the rotation, not just with the bullpen. The bullpen probably has the least amount of what ifs, which is just kind of wild to think about. But beyond Devers, there's still several things that are making fans question what the direction of this team is. Yoshida has to be a star, and that's very, very possible. But I do worry about his defense in the outfield. I obviously hope he acclimates very well to the outfield in MLB, but I don't necessarily have an issue with his offense. But I do worry that the translation from Japanese ball to MLB will be difficult for him. But I am willing to give him that 1 year buffer, kind of figure it out. But maybe he'll be a star right off the bat, but that he needs to be a star. Alex Verdugo needs to reach his potential that people think he can reach. I'm skeptical, but I think he can be a valuable MLB player. I don't think he's going to be an all-star. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. Chris Sale needs to be healthy, which has been such a struggle for him these last few seasons. Casas needs to really just kind of mash home runs and play strong first base. And I think he will play a strong first base. I think he'll strike out a lot. He'll probably walk a lot as well because he does have a lot of plate patience. Kenley Jansen, he needs to be a solid closer, but the Red Sox also have to be able to get to him and give him the opportunity to be a solid closer for this team. And Brian Bayo too. I mean, he needs to really emerge as this, people compare him to Pedro Martinez. He's been working with Pedro Martinez in this offseason. I think he'll be fine. I think we're still a year and a half away of seeing what he really, really can be. But he's somebody else who really needs to kind of come into his own this season. And it's going to be a big ask, I think, for somebody like him. I think that, like I said, he will 100% be fine. I think he'll be a solid MLB pitcher. He'll probably even be an ace. But I still think we're a little bit away from seeing that. And I still think there's so many what ifs. But if the Red Sox truly do want to start revolving around Devers, building a postseason contending team, a World Series championship caliber team, you want to do that around Devers, all right, let's start doing it then. In our second segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, we're going to discuss arbitration and the Red Sox avoiding arbitration with 5 of their players. None of them really a surprise, but people still are unhappy with one particular player. I'm sure you can guess who it is. We'll tell you all about that in our next segment as soon as I tell you about Bet Online, because betonline.net is your number one source for your sports betting info, the stats, your news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional sport and amateur league out there, from pro football. Super Wildcard Weekend has been so fun. I'm recording this right before the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. Saturday's games were a doozy. More so the Jacksonville game, unbelievable comeback. You have basketball, the NHL, everything is over at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, which I'm assuming you do because you're listening to Locked On Red Sox, you can find those at BetOnline as well. It's always the fastest and the easiest way to get your betting info. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. So the Red Sox avoided arbitration with 5 of their players. Those 5 players were Nick Pivetta, Ryan Brasier, Christian Arroyo, Alex Verdugo, and Reese McGuire. They all agreed to the salary for the 2023 season. So arbitration is really just kind of a formality, and none of these are really a surprise. I don't think any of the named players are really worth going to an arbitration hearing for, but as to be expected, when it was announced, Brasier was one of those people where Twitter seemed upset. And listen, I am not a Ryan Brasier fan. We know that. That does not need to be said. But people were like, why is he still on this team? And it is a little bit surprising at times when you look at other players who have been DFA'd and you wonder, okay, well then why hasn't Brasier been traded? Why hasn't Brasier been released, DFA'd, whatever? And he still remains on this team. And of course, the running joke is that he has dirt on the Red Sox front office and just they have to keep him around because he'll blackmail them. So why is he still here? That is the big question any time that the Red Sox announce any sort of roster move, and it doesn't have to do with getting Ryan Brasier off the roster. And this is the final year of his contract with the Red Sox, so maybe it's just a matter of keeping him around one more year. And he was good at the end of last season. He did have one strong month. He did finish the season on a high note, but you look at the months before that, they're not very good. He does not have a steady, reliable record of being good out of the bullpen. So while I understand that, yes, he did have good numbers in September of 2022, who knows? Who's to say that that will carry over into 2023? And it might. Maybe he'll build off that. He might surprise us all and be the X factor out of the bullpen. That would be something. I don't have any faith in that happening, but it's baseball. You never know what can happen. But another point that I was talking about earlier is that the Red Sox bolstered their bullpen a lot this offseason. They've made it much better than in years past. And maybe they see that as kind of an opportunity for Brasier to not be used as much. You won't be needing to go to him in higher leverage situations. Maybe you go to him when the game is out of reach, whether that's the Red Sox being up several runs or being down several runs. But maybe they see this as a way to not use him as much as they have in the past, which maybe that will be better for him. I do think he and several other bullpen relievers were overused the last few seasons. I do think he was one of them, but I don't think him being overused was part of the reason he's been so not reliable for this team. I just think that's kind of the pitcher he is. Of course, being overused certainly does not help, but the more pitchers you have, the more reliable pitchers you have. Maybe you're not forced to go to him, and it's arbitration. It's a formality. He's not worth going to a hearing for, and this could be a big season for Brasier in 2023. I mean, he could, like I said, he could be an X factor out of the bullpen. Stranger things have happened, but more so than Brasier, I think that anyone who received the arbitration offer has a big 2023 in front of them. Reese McGuire, is this going to be the guy the Red Sox commit to, or commit to at least until Connor Wong is ready? Do they think Connor Wong is the future at catcher, or is it another catcher somewhere in this system? But maybe McGuire can have a big season and kind of prove that, yeah, like, hey, I can still be a valuable starting catcher and a number one catcher per se. Christian Arroyo, I think he's going to have a bigger role with the Red Sox because of Trevor Story's injury. I think that you'll see him at second base. I don't think he'll be a full-time player, but I think he'll play a lot more games than we're used to seeing him. Nick Pivetta, I think this is a huge season for Nick Pivetta. I think that as durable as he was last year, he certainly could have been better numbers-wise, absolutely. But it's also hard to find somebody who's not going to miss a start, especially last year for the Red Sox. No one in that rotation besides Nick Pivetta could say that I made every single start, and sometimes he'd be out there, he'd just be getting shelled inning after inning after inning, and sometimes he'd go out and give you 6-7 solid innings. So if he can prove himself to be a solid 4 or 5 guy, 3, 4, 5 guy even, and still provide the durability and the reliability that he did last year while improving his numbers, this could be a big season for Nick Pivetta too. I am a big Nick Pivetta fan. So selfishly, for my own reasons, I want him to do very, very well. And obviously I want him to do well for the Red Sox, because I do think that there's a better pitcher in him than what we've seen. And I think we have seen some of it. We've seen the flashes of it. And I do think that there is a stable, reliable guy in there that can give 6-7 innings while also continuing to provide several starts for the Red Sox and provide that stability that the rotation did not have last year. He was the only one to not miss a start. His numbers could have been much better, yes, 100%, but it's another big year for him. Alex Verdugo, I talked about this in the first segment, that this could be a huge year for him. I think naturally he's going to always have eyes on him because he was the guy. He was the MLB ready player in the Mookie Betts trade. And he's definitely improved. I don't think he's ever going to be that all-star caliber player that many think he is or think he could be. And much like Brasier, he could surprise us. He could be an all-star this year. I'd be surprised, but it's a big season for him too. I think this is the season where we're going to see exactly the player he is. Is he going to ever kind of reach the potential that has been around him, or is he going to continue to just be your serviceable outfielder that the Red Sox got in Mookie Betts trade, the first trade under the Chaim Bloom era? So really big season for all the arbitration guys for a number of reasons. I don't think fans really expect these people to be, the Cy Young Award winners in this rotation or the Silver Sluggers, but this can be a serviceable lineup. I don't think it's anything flashy by any means. And there was a comment on one of our recent videos that said that the lineup is fine, it's just uninspiring. And I think that's the perfect way to describe the lineup, is that there is talent there, but it's not these big sexy names that people want to go watch at the end of the day. And there's still work to be done on this Red Sox team. I think that Jake and I do have some episodes this week talking about potential backfills in the shortstop position. on the trade market and not so much internal options. And the Red Sox still have a lot of work to do this offseason. I think that, and there's still holes for this Red Sox team to fill this offseason. But we have one more segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast. As always, we'll end the show on the Mental Health Minute as soon as I tell you about Built Bar. You know me. I absolutely love Built Bar. They're one of my favorite on-the-go snacks. And if you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't really want to sacrifice the fat or the calories, and you have to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. We're halfway through January already. A lot of people's resolutions, including my own, are to eat healthier and kind of make the gym a priority. And with Built Bar, you don't have to compromise taste, and you can eat healthy while feeling like you are eating a candy bar. You have to try it. With Built Bar, healthy is actually tasty. They're so delicious. Like I said, you won't think you're eating a protein bar. There's none of that kind of cardboard taste. They're also covered in 100% real chocolate, and there are a ton of flavors. There's a flavor for literally anyone. There's churro, there's my favorite cookie dough, there's coconut almond. You can find a flavor for anyone with Built Bar. And now you don't need to wait around for a box to show up at your door. For years, we've been talking about Built Bars at built.com, but now they're sold at Walmart or your local Sam's Club. So that's right. Head on over to your nearest Walmart today, right to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up the 4-bar box of cookies and cream, which is my favorite. Actually got one today because I just cannot resist anything cookie dough. They also have double chocolate and the coconut puffs. The puffs are so, so good. And if you're close to the Sam's Club, just go in and they have the 13-bar box with all of the hit flavors, brownie batter, churro. You can thank me later. Make sure you head on over to a Walmart, Sam's Club, and they're still available at built.com. But now you don't have to wait for shipping. Now you can just buy them right in a store. So for today's Mental Health Minute, this episode is dropping Monday. I know this is a Red Sox podcast, but hockey is my first love. I love hockey. I love the Boston Bruins, and I've had so much fun covering this team professionally for almost 8 years and 5 years with NESN. And Monday will be David Krejci's 1,000th game with the Bruins. Patrice Bergeron did it recently. Also, Zdeno Chara reached the milestone before he left the Bruins and ultimately signed back with the Bruins for a one-day contract to retire with the organization. But it's a huge milestone, and I'll be covering the game, so I'm super excited to do that. Krejci has been one of my favorite players, and the fact that he left last year to go to his native Czech Republic to play hockey over there for a year, come back and still reach the milestone, I think is just unbelievable. And next year, if Krejci and Patrice Bergeron decide to return to the Bruins, then Brad Marchand will reach the milestone next year, and the Bruins will have 3 1,000-game players to all play 1,000 games with the Bruins. It's just pretty cool. I love milestones like that. I'm so excited and honored to be able to cover this game, and I'm excited for all the content. I have a ton of content on NESN.com coming out this week about his milestones with the Bruins, kind of top moments from his career. Bit of an underrated player, but I know you're here for Red Sox talk, so thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Locked On Red Sox right here on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. Wherever you get your podcast is where you can find us. And you can find us on Twitter as well at LO_Red Sox, Jake at Jake Iggy, and then me, La Lauren, 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. Be sure to check out all the other shows across the Locked On Network. Locked On Mets, Locked On Twins. They're having a grand old time at Locked On Twins, Locked On Reds, Locked On Yankees. Everyone does such a great job bringing you baseball content, especially in the off season. And now that you've made Locked On Red Sox your first listen, head on over to Locked On MLB Prospects for your second listen. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. We've had him on the show a few times to discuss potential trades and discuss the prospects that have come over from trades that the Red Sox have made. He knows his stuff. He's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. We'll be back this week to talk what are the options for the Red Sox at shortstop. We have a lot of content ready for you. Pitchers and catchers report in a month. First full squad workout just over a month away. Baseball is on the horizon. Whether that means good news or bad news for the Red Sox remains to be seen. But we'll end the show how we always do, and that's let's go Red Sox.